If a machine were invented that could take us back about 300,000 years into the past, we would encounter modern humans, Homo sapiens. However, these are not our earliest ancestors, as to meet them, you would need to go back 6 million years. Even then, to meet the ancestors of those ancestors, you would have to travel further back in time, because the origins of those ancestors began around 3.5 to 4 billion years ago. The term 4 billion may sound like a small word, but you can gauge the enormity of this time span by considering what humans were like just 100 years ago, what they are today, and what they might become in the next 100 years. You can experience this transformation, meaning that in just 200 years, the human species itself could change dramatically. So what must the journey of billions of years have been like for humans or living beings? How did they survive natural disasters? Let's explore how humans originated over these billions of years and how their lives unfolded. To understand this, we must travel back 4 billion years into Earth's past. The place you're looking at now is Earth, which appears like a fireball, with molten lava seas floating around. Looking at this situation, it doesn't seem like life could ever have begun on this planet. However, over time, it gradually cooled. The flowing lava solidified into rocks, though this process took millions of years. The Earth had cooled somewhat, but there was still no water or oxygen on this planet. Friends, you all know about meteorites, which range from a few meters to hundreds of kilometers in size. If one were to hit Earth today, it could wipe out all traces of humanity. But every aspect has a negative and a positive side. After the formation of Earth and other planets, there were billions of times more meteorites in space compared to today, and these meteorites kept crashing into Earth. Some were made of dust and soil, others of iron and nickel, and some of other metals. But the meteorites Earth needed most were those made of ice crystals. About 3.8 billion years ago, a bombardment of these meteorites hit Earth, an event scientists call the Late Heavy Bombardment. When the ice crystal meteorites fell, the Earth was still hot, causing the ice to melt. The water filled the craters formed by the meteorite impacts, marking the beginning of the formation of oceans. At this time, the ocean water was completely fresh, unlike the salty water of today's oceans. You might wonder why groundwater is fresh while seawater is salty, even though water arrived on Earth at the same time. As I mentioned, the water from meteorites was like pure mineral water. However, the ocean water didn't become salty overnight. It took billions of years. The primary reason is believed to be volcanic activity, as most volcanoes erupted in the oceans, causing minerals and metals from Earth to melt and mix with the seawater. At this time, the entire Earth was covered in water, with no trace of land. Sometime later, volcanic eruptions began in these oceans, and the lava that emerged cooled to form land. The water that evaporated from the oceans and fell as rain seeped into the ground. Let's move the story forward. After millions of years, the Earth's oceans were filled with water, and the planet's temperature was normal. While the Earth's surface was cool, its core remained extremely hot. In the depths of the oceans, there was a place with a normal temperature, and it was here that Earth's first single-celled organisms, or microbes, appeared. In simple terms, amino acids, proteins, RNA, and DNA combined to form membrane-bound bubbles floating in the water. For millions of years, these replicated themselves, increasing in number and size in the oceans. They began harnessing energy from sunlight. Over time, a new form emerged called cyanobacteria, which absorbed sunlight to produce oxygen. However, this oxygen reduced the methane gas in the atmosphere, leading to the first ice age, when Earth was entirely covered in ice. About 2 billion years ago, these single-celled organisms evolved into multicellular ones. They went from being spherical to flat and began resembling fish to some extent. These species faced several ice ages. Around 600 million years ago, these organisms had evolved into various species, some large and some small, all originating from those single-celled beings. They looked different due to natural causes. Among them was a creature that would eventually develop into the backbone of humans. This creature, called Pikaia, had a developed spine and looked like a hybrid of a fish and an earthworm. While life thrived in the oceans, no creatures were visible on land. The main reason was the sun's harmful rays, which prevented plants, insects, or other life from flourishing. The ozone layer began forming 2.5 billion years ago, but the process was slow and only completed about 450 million years ago. Once the ozone layer was fully formed 450 million years ago, algae from the oceans began to grow on land, known as bryophytes. These grew in moist areas and were very small, lacking the woody structure of trees. About 370 million years ago, a fish called Tiktaalik emerged from the water onto land for the first time. One reason for this was that large creatures had evolved in the oceans, preying on smaller ones, forcing some to move to land. On land, they found small insects to eat. Around 300 million years ago, the tiny plants had grown into large trees, and the Tiktaalik fish now resembled modern crocodiles. This was the creature that would evolve into various forms, including humans. But Earth's changing cycles were about to bring something new. Dormant volcanoes began erupting again, causing the planet's temperature to rise drastically. It's said that 95% of Earth's species went extinct, and plants dried up. Only those creatures survived that lived in the oceans or burrowed underground. Millions of years later, Earth returned to normal, and plant growth resumed. About 200 million years ago, the largest creatures on Earth, the dinosaurs, had fully evolved. These were the most ferocious creatures, some carnivorous and others herbivorous. They ruled Earth longer than any other species, but couldn't withstand nature's changing cycles. About 65 million years ago, as these creatures went about their lives, they noticed a bright light in the sky. For the first time, they saw a glowing object. But it wasn't an object. It was a meteorite, 10 to 15 kilometers in size, burning through the atmosphere to destroy Earth. When it struck, it released so much energy that within 10 to 20 minutes, many creatures were incinerated. Those that survived were killed by tsunami waves from earthquakes in the oceans. Even creatures thousands of kilometers away died from the heat of radiation. Only the smallest creatures or those living in burrows survived, including mammals, which nursed their young with milk. These mammals would later evolve into apes. About 7 million years ago, these creatures had grown to the size of monkeys, living in trees and eating fruits and leaves. Around 4 million years ago, climate change caused many forests to dry up, forcing them to come down from the trees. On the ground, they occasionally ran on 2 legs, much like modern monkeys sometimes do. By about 3 million years ago, they were fully bipedal. Around 2.5 million years ago, they learned to make stone tools and became both carnivorous and herbivorous. About 2 million years ago, they discovered fire and began cooking meat. However, they had very few human-like traits. Around 300,000 years ago, these early humans evolved into modern humans with thinking and reasoning abilities. They worked thoughtfully and developed language. The full formation of humans as we know them began around 300,000 years ago. By 100,000 years ago, humans were advanced enough to control fire, water, and food. Their population had spread far and wide. As tectonic plates shifted and continents formed, humans began living on different continents. Our ancient home was Africa, from where we spread to other continents. Around 40,000 years ago, we began sewing clothes, though earlier we only draped animal hides. About 10,000 years ago, we started farming and making woolen and cotton fabrics. Around 8,000 years ago, we began settling in permanent villages through agriculture, leading to the development of civilizations. About 5,000 years ago, we developed technologies like irrigation, ox carts, and plows, and from there, our progress continued. Today, we are so advanced that we're watching our own evolutionary story through digital technology. It's possible that in the future, humans will become even more advanced, and we might seem like primitive humans to them. Friends, how did you like this journey of human evolution? Please let us know through your comments, and don't forget to like the video before you go.